Aloha and welcome to Wisdom Dialogues with Hope Johnson, coming to you from Hawaiian beaches on the beautiful big island of Hawaii. Hooray. And I have no one online with me that's on Zoom to talk with me, but I have two people in here in person. Apparently the time changed on the mainland, but it didn't change for Hawaii. So I have a feeling people are going to start joining around the second hour. Yay.
Telling you have problems with Facebook.
Why?
Oh, because some of them like when they try
Oh.
on Facebook. Maybe we can try again.
It's all good. We're on YouTube now. Aloha, everyone. I love you. Thank you so much for joining. Yay. So one thing that's been coming up really clear for me that's really important, it's a really important piece that, you know, most aspects of spirituality don't really address. And that is the person's reaction to you. Whoever it is that you're relating with, that person's reaction to you. It's not really about you, so to speak. It's not a personal thing, but it's an indication. It's an indication. Remember, they are you. And they're asking you to show them their value and their innocence. So if they're reacting to you in an upset kind of way, disappointed, confused, anything like that, that's actually for you to take care of. That's for you to take care of. It's your responsibility. And the way to take care of that, because you don't know how to take care of it. I know. I don't know either. Is to just take responsibility. Just accept the responsibility, and then you're open for the guidance on that. You're open on the guidance for how to take care of that upset feeling that's really projected from you. Remember, you're perceiving them. That means it's projected from you. So it's in your perception. It becomes your responsibility. It's not your fault. It's not like that. It's not like taking it as in, I must be something because I'm having this perception of you being angry with me.
Guilty.
No. Yeah, it's a guilty thing. No, it's not a guilt. It's not for guilt. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to take responsibility for that, because, you know, the ego's way is to use something like that for projecting. And in a lot of mainstream spirituality right now, it's all about, you know, you take care of your feelings and I'll take care of mine. You know, we're really here giving each other a gift. We're giving each other a very important gift. It's the gift of salvation. We're mirroring each other so that we can undo the guilty self-concept that we're holding. And we're all holding a guilty self-concept. That's how we could prop a body up like this. As the guilty self-concept gets worn down, sort of like dissolved, then everything becomes more easeful, of course. Relating becomes more easeful because everyone who you gave that message of them being very valuable to you, one, and loved, people give that message back to you too. They start reflecting that message back to you. And that's how it gets to be so easeful. But it's never like a grading thing, like, oh, I don't want anything bad. I don't want any kind of anyone to say anything bad about me. No, it's not like that. It's wonderful because of the opportunity. It's totally wonderful. We're just programmed to react to that as if it's something we don't want, because that keeps projecting going. That keeps the projecting alive. See how tempting it is to go with it, that it's over there too. You know, making people out to be insane, that's talking about yourself again. I saw one post today where someone was trying to get some certain laws done for pedophiles, trying to get some certain laws set in place. And people came on, you know, which is neither here nor there, no deal at all. That's nothing. And then people came on and talked about the punishment that those people should get. and feel justified in that because those are pedophiles. So they're feeling justified. And, you know, one of them was specifically wants them to just have mandatory killed, you know. And that's the thing is that person is you. The person is you and representing you in that moment. And if you're going to condemn them, you have to suffer the consequences. That's why we have death, because we've been wishing for death like all the time. We're always wishing for death. When we see something we don't want, we want to kill it, you know. See a person that seems to be, you know, and that's the thing, that's the plague. No one's really done anything. And whatever people seem to be doing, it's the rest of us calling for that exact behavior. Everyone who perceives it has been calling for it, projecting it even. It's like the person's on a script, playing out the script you gave them so that you could scapegoat them with your self-condemnation. See, then that way it seems like it's covered up and it seems like you're not really condemning yourself because you're condemning that person that's out there who totally deserves it. And then plenty of people will agree with you. That's why, you know, talk about the blind leading the blind, because plenty of people will also agree with you, you know, to get on that kind of bandwagon. The guiltiest people, no one's really guilty, but the guiltiest people, meaning they have been following a lot of guilt about themselves, they are looking for someone to be the scapegoat all the time, every day, someone who deserves death. That's not themselves. But really, underneath the surface, what they're saying is, I'm deserving of death. And what it does is it incites fear of death while also calling upon it. And, you know, there's a lot of different symptoms of death, you know, leading up to it. Of course, mental confusion is one of them, mental stress, all of the mental ones. And then there's sickness, accident, injury, anything the deformity, okay? That's from calling upon death, all of those things arise in the interim between birth and death. Conflict, lawsuits, all death related. Okay? So in watching people's reaction, the reason I really advocate watching people's reaction to you is because that's showing you how you're treating yourself. That's totally revealing to you how you're treating yourself. You know, if you're being strict and stringent to yourself, and you see other people reacting to you like that, that's how you know. That's how you find out. You find out what it really feels like, how your inner child is reacting. You can say it like that. You know, a lot of people like that kind of analogy, like the inner child. You can say that's your inner child reacting, what you see on the other person's face. You only want to uplift your inner child. That's your true will. You only want to uplift your inner child because that's the expression of the joy that you are, which means you only ever want to uplift anyone, really. So in watching their reaction, you can get tuned in to how you're treating yourself. And in just that willingness to admit, this is how I'm treating myself, you get to see what's needed. And you know, all it is willingness to be sweeter to yourself. And you'll be shown the way there. It's energetic. It's through feeling. It's sort of like a movement in the emotional body. It's not something that has to do with your surface expression, but that comes naturally. So you let your surface expression come naturally. If you're focused on the surface expression, you're not getting the guidance that you need. There isn't really anything going on the surface. That's just a play to show you where to look, so you remember where to go. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, for the mind to take a look at the fact that whatever we perceive through the senses, that means our eyes, what we see, what we hear, what we read, what we understand, that's all being taken in from a brain perspective. That's about a body. There isn't really a body. Yet that's not your sight. So it's like if you've associated with your senses as if that's how you perceive reality, you've got it wrong. You've made a mistake there. You're not seeing anything that you could really see. You're not having a perception of anything that you can really see. That's why it's a projection. It's a perception that you're having in a dream. So you don't really have a body to perceive, but that's a made up thing. Like the brain and the body, they go together. They're one thing. The brain's interpreting this body sense information and making a world out of it for the body. But you're before all of that. You're before all of that. And that has nothing to do with your sight, the sight that's given you when you're created. You're only capable of having joy in your sight, which is also synonymous with love. Okay? You're only truly capable of being joyful. When you have the perception of yourself as this limited self and associate yourself with it, you cannot be that expression of joy. You cannot be that expression of joy because you take everything that the brain is saying about your life as if that's actually your life, but it's not. You are the life. You are the life. And that's why you have a choice in every moment to take reality as it is. You know, a lot of the times what I hear is, you know, I love what is, I love what is, I love what is, but people don't know what is. You know, you have to admit, I don't know what is. So first, you have to surrender thinking that you know what is. This is not what is. And then you'll be able to find out. You know, taking on your idea about what happened, what should happen, what's going to happen, what the person did, anything like that, is taking on something that's just not true and making yourself into a victim of it. And it's easy because we given up in one moment. It just be surrendered in one moment. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at. And that way you can hear your guidance. You can listen to and you can follow your guidance. So that brings me to this question. Okay, I have a question about a situation. I recently had an encounter with some of my projections. It was an argument on a Facebook post between two people. It was a funny Halloween meme that I posted about horror movies. These two started arguing. Then I chose to step in as soon as one of the people became aggressive and said, "Go to hell," to the other one. Okay, so you didn't choose to step in. That's not a choice that you have. That's not a choice that you're really capable of making. Okay. The choice that you're capable of making there is what's becoming aggressive. To realize what's becoming aggressive. There's not really another person. So you could say aggressiveness is here. It's arising. It's not really coming from another person. So the action, the expression of consciousness only comes after the fact. All these choices are made. Only the choice between truth and illusion, it's one choice over and over again. And then the apparent choices come out of that. Okay? I felt the need to stand up for the one that I perceived to be attacked since it was on my post. Okay, so there's another choice there, you know, that there, you know, the person being attacked is also arising in your perception. That's all. Next time, I'll probably just allow them to fight and scroll on past, but I felt compelled. Well, you might feel compelled again. You might feel compelled again. If you don't see them as they are, you're going to feel compelled to do all kinds of things that you're going to see. You're going to see that you were reacting out of ego. You're going to know that you were reacting out of the ego by their response to you, by their reaction to you. Just like I was just talking about. That's how you're going to know. You know, watch their reaction to you. There's nothing wrong with it. That's the thing. There's not anything wrong with it. It's just that when these things get seen, they get worked out over time, over experience. They get worked out if they get seen. But if they're not getting seen, that's what I consider wasting time. Time's ticking on by, and all these things are going on where there's all these taking guilty concepts as true and just letting it happen. Permissiveness. Basically, the woman was playing the victim and trying to project her stuff and gain sympathy and pity. The guy was being neutral in tone, and he set healthy boundaries with her. He didn't offer her exactly what she was pandering for, so she picked a fight with him. Yeah. So I would just say, watch your reactions, watch people's reactions to you. Let's keep it really simple. Don't worry about what anyone else seems to be doing, because that's also all made up for you. Just watch your reaction, watch people's reactions to you. And, you know, just to give you some permission, if you see people arguing on your post, you can always delete that comment. Isn't that fun? You don't have to say anything. I stepped in after she got aggressive. I offered compassion and sympathy to the victim, but also held her accountable for her behavior, which she did not like. Yes, she's not going to like it because there's a lot of I in there. There's not guidance. There's not spirit guidance. You'll know when there's spirit guidance because you know that you are not teaching her. She's teaching you. Okay? You're not teaching her. She's teaching you. Remember, you can only teach your own mind, and everyone is showing up to help you teach your own mind. So if you think you're going to give them a lesson, you are going to see a reaction most of the time. You're going to see an upset reaction come back at you. Never try to be a teacher of someone else. What you teach, you learn. It's all for you. You know, that gives you a sense of gratitude for the person for giving you this lesson right now. And you'll be guided exactly what they need to know, what they can understand, what they can grasp right now. You know, for most people, just hearing this kind of stuff is an attack. This is not for everyone. People that come on Wisdom Dialogues, they want to hear it. But, you know, I don't just automatically, and definitely learn from experience by people's reaction to me, just don't automatically go, hey, yeah, the world isn't real though. The world isn't freaking real. You know, that'll piss some people off. And, you know, that doesn't bring anyone closer. That doesn't bring them to you. That's not an example of how to be loving and compassionate. And, you know, whenever you take it upon yourself to teach someone, you're going to make a mess of it. You're going to make a mess of it. It has to be your teaching. Let it be your teaching. Okay. Otherwise, you know, you're going to wind up super frustrated and irritated that you showed all this compassion. See, it's like I offered all this compassion and sympathy, but also held her accountable for her behavior. It's like she has no behavior, actually. You're not seeing her as she is. So her reaction to you is telling you that you're making her into something that she's not, which is really making yourself into something that you're not, and you want to know about it. That's why she's showing you that reaction. It's a total gift. Things escalated from her side. Okay, so you escalated. You used her, propping her up, to escalate your conflict, to escalate your inner conflict. Once you admit that, it's completely different. You're looking at a completely different scenario. You're looking at a whole different thing. Now you're actually getting the feeling effects of it. You're not projecting as if there's a person out there who's escalating stuff on their own. I came from a place of compassion. There it is again. I came from a place of compassion, understanding, and love. Actually, you didn't. Hooray. That you know because of their reaction. That's how you know. See, the thing is, the way we've been conditioned, we don't know when we're being compassionate or not. We don't know. We can think we are. We can think we're being compassionate. We find out. We find out. I can't tell you how important it is to watch their reaction to you. And, oh, I hope I wasn't being compassionate right there, because if that's how compassion is returned, that's fucked up. You know, you can start with that. And then you'll get to the point where I definitely was not compassionate. Thank you for showing that to me. I definitely was not being compassionate with myself. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's not like you got it wrong if you weren't compassionate with yourself. You want to see when you're not compassionate with yourself, because as long as you find yourself in a body where other people are separate, other people are appearing to be separate, you get triggered, distracted, upset, anything like that, you can guarantee you're not treating yourself with love. You're not allowing compassion for yourself. And all these other people are showing you how you're doing that. That's what it's for. And then she says, I knew that this was my own projection, the whole interaction. Yes, I know you know. That's why I'm talking with you like this. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for showing this to me. This is awesome. My projection was projecting onto me. Ha ha. She started to twist my words and gaslight me. What does gaslight mean? Anyone know? Okay. Well, I'm sure it's something bad. She was misinterpreting everything I said. Yep, that's what will happen. And trying to play a head game with me. Yep. I even tried apologizing at one point, not because I felt sorry, but I was playing with the interaction. You were experimenting. You were experimenting with different ways of being that you were making up yourself. You're going to see when you're not into making it up yourself and you're not into designing your own lesson, let's say. I wanted to see the transformation, but it never came. Even with the apologies, she kept spewing insults. I kept offering love. I said, may you find peace. Yeah, so you're talking to yourself there. You know, you're getting triggered. You're getting triggered, and that's why you can't just hit delete on the thing. Because you want to see the person react differently to you, but you're following the ego's guidance, which you could say it's worldly guidance. It's not something wrong with it. It's the way most people go about it. You're learning through it, and that's what's awesome. I felt triggered, like I wanted to defend myself, like I wanted to be right, but I didn't insist. I dropped it and just let her say what she wanted to say and not engage in a fight, but only responding with loving responses until it felt settled enough. So you felt settled enough to walk away from it. I know that feeling where you seem to get caught up in some kind of communication like that, or you could say projecting like that, because it's not really communicating. You get caught up in that projecting. Notice how things start to go fast. There's a quickness in the mind energy. You don't have to make a response right away. You can sit down and rest with it. That's just a suggestion for consciousness. Again, you can't make that kind of choice, but you can make a choice to see other options. You can make a choice to open up to different opportunities that are here. What's normally going on with the ego's guidance is just a very narrow scope. They're looking at the perception, analyzing the perception, analyzing what's going on in the perception. This perception is so surface. So it's underneath that where you're going to get the guidance and the healing. How would you approach the victim projection in order to witness the healing part. I just get whatever feeling it is that's arising for me. So if someone's projecting themselves as a victim, I just get the feeling that's arising in me because I know that's really my projection. That's me, actually. That's me. So I don't need to teach them over there. You know what I mean? When the mind is focused like that, as in teaching a person outside of yourself, it's just a whole different energy. This is my lesson. If I have a projection of someone expressing victim consciousness right in front of me, that's my lesson. In fact, you know, I've sat in meetings, in mediation type meetings, where a person is sitting in front of me projecting victim consciousness for 5 hours at a time. And the whole time I'm taking it for my healing only, not trying to teach them anything. I'm taking it for my healing. When they want their healing from that perspective, they'll learn from me on their own. I don't have anything to do about it. They learn from the example. That's how we teach. We teach from our example. Okay? Obviously, that was me doing that to myself, and the whole interaction was my creation. Well, here's the thing. I'd like to say that it's not a creation because what's created lasts forever. And basically, you know, we're created. We're the created Son of God. So, and there's only one of us. And what we're making up with these interactions and stuff like that, they didn't even happen. You know, they're all sacred and they didn't even happen. So, making that up is for healing it. And when it's healed, it's gone. It's not even remembered. I did eventually find laughter in it. Good. But I certainly felt triggered. Yes, you did. That's how it goes. So you feel the trigger. Whenever someone's reacting to you, you feel triggered. Feel the trigger. There's this kind of smug spiritual way of being, like, well, you must be playing the victim over there. You know, the person's reacting to you. Yeah, you must be playing into some victim consciousness over there, you know. And it's like not even noticing that feeling that we're having a perception of, it's coming from our own body's energy field. It is not a guilty thing. That's how you'll be able to handle it and embrace it, is when you recognize and admit that it's not a guilty thing, but it's an opportunity. It felt draining. Yes, that's what that kind of thing can make you feel very tired. That's right. Which I know that's also a story. That's the thing. It is a story, and it's a story that arises out of this feeling like you have to change someone about something about someone, and they're outside of you. It's very draining. And, you know, that's the only thing that drains the energy, is taking the world to be separate. That's why it says in A Course in Miracles, what is it? Energy doesn't come from sleeping, it comes from awakening. It's not sleeping that does it, it's awakening. You can be up all night, that's fine. But if you're not taking things as separate, you're going to feel completely rested and energized. I recognize the guilt feelings coming up. Good. This is a great learning opportunity. Thank you for sharing this. I kept reminding myself and denying the false reality. This isn't real. This is just a projection. Only love exists. Nothing is happening. We are not separate. You are doing this to yourself. This is the ego, not reality, etc. Is this the gist of what we do? Yes, that's really good. That's really good. This is for feeling it though. You need to feel these things and not let them just be words. You know, you have to actually feel these things, but it doesn't matter starting out with them as just words. They'll get there. It'll move along to you feeling it. Look at how I'm reacting. Watch it. Watch the other person reaction. recognize that that's your triggered reaction. And then you're humble. There's humility in that. People love you when you're humble. They can't help it. They cannot help it. You do, and also you do not have to engage anyone. That's the thing. If someone's giving a projection, like, let's say it like this. If you're propping someone up with a projection like they're just super angry and don't want anything from you, leave them alone. They can have space. But watch, your guidance shows you. You'll see. You'll see exactly when they need to be left alone and they need something said to them, because it's you. I wasn't sure if I healed anything in that moment because the energy didn't seem to transform. Oh yeah, lots of healing took place. Lots of healing took place because of that little offering you were making. You were offering to see that it's all you. That little offering is enough. You'll see as time goes by and you have more perceptions, and you are going to have more perceptions like this until it's completely healed. You're going to have more perceptions like this. It'll become easier. And eventually it'll become fun for you. It'll actually become fun for you. The next day I had all the tears move through me. Like, I didn't know why I was crying, but it felt really good, so I let them flow. It was odd. It felt like a release. But is that just imagined? Yes, it's all just imagined, and it's also all sacred. So enjoy everything. Enjoy it. It's all for healing. Okay? It's just that you don't have to make anything real. Say that. Sacred, but not real. Okay? The release that you perceive is symbolic. It's symbolic of releasing in the mind. There has been a release in the mind through this because of the willingness to see that it's you. And you may find more releases after you listen to this. Isn't that fun? How do we know if the perception gets healed? Anytime you offer a little bit of willingness to know the truth, to recognize where this is coming from, perception has been healed. Okay? And don't doubt that. You'll see it go faster and easier the less you doubt that it's been healed. It's actually all been healed. We're just holding it up as if it's unhealed for fear to just go back to reality. That fear of death, it's a big one. And all of this, the way we're talking about looking at things, that's undoing that fear of death until there's no need for death. There's not even any need for it anymore, and you won't see it anymore. Won't be anything like that. So this past weekend, I got the guidance very clear, verbally very clear. Stop imagining yourself. Let me imagine you. What we have a perception of now, who we are, our lives, what we do, our tastes, our preferences, it's all stories that we made up. And if you watch, you'll see that you're imagining these things about yourself all day long. It's like you have to keep on reminding yourself who you think you are. Because it's only propped up by thought. The whole thing's propped up by thought. So since you have to keep on imagining who you are, all these thoughts occur to you. You'll have imaginary conversations with people, telling them who you are. You'll you'll have projections for people saying, oh, I'm definitely not that. I would never do that. You know, that's another way, imagining yourself. And, you know, all that imagining, it leads up to conflict and death and suffering. It doesn't do any good. You know, the way God imagines you, and that was the me I was getting, saying, let me imagine you. I was getting that, you know, that me is symbolic of God. Seemed like it was just God speaking to me. I was walking through the garden and it was just like, stop imagining yourself. Let me imagine you. And I was hanging out in the garden for several hours, and that kept on coming to me again and again. Every time there was a story playing about myself. And it was so much release every time. It was so wonderful. It was beautiful. When that voice came, it's like, oh yeah, thank goodness. Because anytime you're having a worldly thought, which is a thought about yourself, about who you are in the world, it's tension. It's tension. People don't notice this because they haven't had that kind of release from the tension, that release of letting it go right in the middle of the thought pattern that's coming up, talking about who I am, just in the surrender of it and letting it go. There's all this beauty that arises. It's like, thank you. And then there's forgetfulness again. And there's the story of me again. And there's the voice again. Stop imagining yourself. Let me imagine you. And it's just like, yay. Yes, I like that. Yes. Say yes to that. It's just so happy and free. I don't know how I want to be. I could take the past about how I have been and talk about what kind of broad I am. But that's not one bit true. And the more I think about myself like that, the more I think myself into a grave. More I think myself into conflict with people, for instance. Like I need this kind of, here's an example. I need to eat this kind of food, for instance. Drop it. You'll eat what you need to eat. It'll be okay. Drop it. It's a story about yourself. It's a habit. It comes along with a feeling. You feel the pressure of it. I mean, maybe you don't feel the pressure of it, but if you look, you'll find it. That occurred to me one day many years ago. I was driving in my car, and I was on my way to meet with someone where we were into unpatterning beliefs. And I was driving in my car, and it occurred to me every thought had an energetic pattern of some kind of tension, unless it was a thought of God. Any thought about this life, any thought about me, any thought about work. Let's just keep that shit to a minimum.
Well, there's lots of quotes in the Bible, you know, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat or drink, wherewithal you shall be clothed, who by taking thought can add to his stature one cubit. My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. So,
yes.
So it's spoken very clearly in the Bible what you're talking about.
Yes, it's spoken very clearly in the Bible. And then, you know, people take the Bible and do not understand it one bit. It's very interesting. You know, all that stuff, it says all that in the Bible, and you have it like right on the tip of your brain like that. I love it. It just comes right out. It's great. But, you know, you don't see churchy people. You don't see churchy people and most people who call themselves Christians and stuff like that willing to surrender what they take to be real. And what's interesting, I was having a conversation with my mom, and my mom's been a Christian for probably like, how old is she? She's probably been a Christian for like ever. I think she was born into Catholic, but she's became a Christian probably like 50 years ago or something. And the other day, you know, she told me about calling on some angels for healing. And I said, well, I like to look at it a little bit different than that, you know, just for these two angels that are really good for healing headaches, especially when you get environmental poisons. That's what she was telling me about. And I said, I like to look at it a little bit different. And that's that, I don't actually have a head and there's no environment and there's no poisons. So I asked for clarity so that I could see the truth, because obviously what I'm seeing is the result of me deceiving myself. And then my mom said, well, it says in the Bible that God made us in his image. And I said, yeah, do you think that a dying ass body with a headache is in God's image? Is that in God's image? Really? You got to wash it? Does God need to wash his ass? But, the fun thing is, I think she actually saw that. And said, yeah, trippy. Like, I don't know if I can go there, but I think that's right.
Those angels out of work, though.
It's yeah, those angels would be, well, you could say like this: angels, what we call angels, they're not non-embodied awareness, wisdom. They're still part of the whole. They're still part of the whole. You can ask those angels for something completely different. You can ask those angels for you to see through this illusion instead of asking them for some favor, because favors on the surface, like make my body better and stuff like that, that's just changing illusions. That's not healing. You may get a perception of, oh, it's healed. Nothing was healed. You made a magic trick with an angel in mind. You made a magic trick like that. Healing is not like a magic trick. The body will manifest healing when the mind is healed, but the body can also manifest apparent healing when the mind is sick as fuck. So what good does that do? It's coming again.
Mary Baker Eddy called it the insanity of health.
The insanity of health.
1 minute you're healthy, the next minute you're sick and dead. That's not a real good vision of health.
Yes. Yes. And then my dad, who shared something with me too. My dad's a missionary, and he's a really good magician. He's a good magician because he can go up to people and go, "What are you feeling?" and touch them, and they feel zing through their body, and that thing gets healed, which is awesome. There's no problem with that at all. And at the same time, what's getting delayed through that is no willingness to see what's caused it. No willingness to actually see what's caused it. So it's like you're guaranteed sickness is returning. You're guaranteed death is coming until there's a willingness to resolve the cause of these things. That's the whole purpose, is to resolve the cause of these things. If you're a good magician too, and you can make some healing tricks on a body, that's great. That's great. And you can take that same kind of magic trick. It's wonderful. It doesn't mean you need to get rid of it or anything. It's wonderful. And address what's beneath it in your own consciousness. I'm not saying anyone needs to teach anyone anything, because the teaching comes naturally. That just comes naturally. But in your own consciousness, to admit that I made this up. That way it's not being taught and learned by you as if this sickness is arising outside of myself and I can heal it like that. There's actually no healing for the body at all, because there isn't a body. It's more like, when you take it like this is within me and I'm responsible for it, then you start to see, look at how the self-image gets played up like this too. If I'm a healer and I can make magic tricks on your body, if I can make magic tricks on people's body, and that's my identity, then I need to make people with sick bodies that I could have magic tricks on. See? And then nothing gets looked at. So the whole lifetime, it's lovely, it's wonderful to be going around and uplifting people in that way, and I'm sure it leads to more. And at the same time, it's distracting if there's not recognizing I made this up in the first place. And what I'm asking for is a different kind of healing. I'm asking for healing for the insanity in my mind. And, you know, in the Bible, and in fact, the Bible verse that my dad used today, and it was a great Bible verse, it was about oppression of the devil. So when he's healing and he's using this verse, he's using the oppression of the devil, but he's seeing it manifest as a form. It's not a form like that. The oppression of the devil is mental. It's a mental thing. So the Bible and all religious texts, they're usually looked at from a very materialistic standpoint, from the standpoint that we are these bodies, and also that God created this world that we perceive through the senses. And it doesn't say that, but that's just automatically the way it's taken because of the sense that we are in a body. Because of that sense that we're like, this is my body and I'm in it. And God made this world. And then maybe if I'm good when I die, I'll go to heaven. It says it right there pretty clear. Bob's quoting verses all the time. It's like, whoa, those are so clear.
What's the verse?
A lot of them. All of them that you bring
you're
up.
talking about what I was talking.
Yeah.
And then Mary Baker Eddy saying insanity of health, saying to get back to sanity. She's saying just trying for physical health is a form of insanity.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure. Because it's denying the cause of the sickness.
Which is out of your own mind.
Yeah. It's denying that it's insanity in the first place that's causing the sickness. So it's covering up the insanity with a magic trick. And keeping heaven away. Keeping, it's keeping fear too. It's always keeping fear. That's what I notice. It's like you haven't been good, and that's why you're sick. So you did something, you did all these things that made you sick.
Well, isn't that the guilt that demands punishment? Then
Yeah.
You get sick.
Yep. And you can't help your action. Like, say you go and you eat a gallon of ice cream or something like that. You cannot help your action. You're being driven like that out of a guilty concept. You're just being driven like that. And the best healing that I've seen with something like that, you find yourself eating something, say it's a gallon of ice cream, and those guilty thoughts start to come in about what effect that has. Watch them. Get the feeling effect. Be willing to have them denied. I mean, as in shown that there's not one bit of truth to that stuff. You didn't even eat that ice cream. You had the perception of eating ice cream. So there's no way it's going to have any kind of effect on you. And any effects that you're perceiving, deny that evidence. This false evidence. Everything that you perceive here, it's all false evidence. It's false evidence based on the sense that you separated yourself. So taking that on, and the idea that, I'm going to go on a diet, or I'm going to purge, or I'm going to do something like that while under this impression that you just ate ice cream and you feel guilty about it, is just adding more layers to that thing.
Well, it's like FEAR, fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yes. That's the whole world. In fact, you can say that's the body itself. It's based on fear. That's the biggest sickness is the body itself. Isn't that funny? But as it's appearing, and it's used for communication, it's like it's infused with loveliness too. It's like it's used for communication that your spirit is expressing through it. It's a spiritual expression, becomes a tool of the spirit. It's totally different. But when it's made to serve your own purposes, it's like this ugly thing because it's used for making conflict. It's used for making disturbances. It's used for causing upset. Well, what's beautiful is the joy that you are, the lightness that you are, and that can come through the body sense, so it can be perceived in a way that you can actually understand, where there's willingness to see that anything you perceive that's out of accord with beauty and loveliness and wholeness is a mistake. It's based on a mistaken interpretation, mistaken belief about who you are.
Yeah, well, you say make it sacred, and it says in the Bible that the body is the temple of God.
Yep, that's right.
So for generating sacredness, then everything becomes your body.
Everything is your body.
Everything is
There's
your
no
body.
boundaries.
That's just it.
Yes.
The whole universe is your body.
Make the whole material world one thing. It's one thing. And it's not separate. It's got no distance from your self-belief. Your self-belief and your body/world is one thing. They're in the same place. They're in the mind. And then who you are is completely distinct from that. Distinct from that. Although you have dominion over it, because, you know, in the order of things, you're before all of this. And you're the one choosing whether or not to make this real. So you have complete dominion and power over everything and everyone. It's just that the only power is love. There is not another power. When you give in to the emotion of fear, as in making those fearful thoughts true, all it does is hide love from you. It's like it covers it up. It's meaningless. It produces a lot of things that don't really happen. It's like a false production. It's a production in a dream.
Well, that's why you say stop imagining yourself, let me imagine you, because God is love, and anything we imagine is going to fall short of what God can imagine. And it's going to be a pseudo love. It's not going to be the real thing. It's going to be your imagination of love, what you think love is, and it's going to fail.
Yes.
Because it's not of God.
Yes, you know, willingness to admit that you really don't know lets the knowledge come through.
Yeah, the best prayer is, I know not how to pray or what to pray for, but let thy spirit make intercession with my spirit.
Yes.
And then just listen. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. That's the best prayer.
Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth.
You're not
Lovely.
talking to God as if God is stupid. You need to inform God. You just humbly listen and wait for the voice to speak to you.
Yes.
Instruct you.
You're not asking for a gift of healing.
Yeah, why is God withholding something from you? You got to ask God for healing. God is keeping the healing away till you get nice and ask him please and thank you.
Yep. Yay. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. Do I have more to talk about today?
Are there more people on now?
I don't have any more questions. I don't have any hands. I'll just wait and see.
Oh. Are there people online, though?
There's a couple on Zoom right now. I don't know about YouTube because I don't know how to get back to it. So I don't know how many people are on there. But, it's probably good for me to look on YouTube in case anyone asks any questions. I wonder how I go there.
You want to try Facebook again?
Oh, no, not in the middle of it because it doesn't work like that.
Oh.
In case anyone asks any questions. Okay, there I am. Oh, no, nothing here. Okay. Well, let's see if anything else wants to be shared. Oh yeah, one more thing that's coming up. The performer. The performer. I have a friend, his name is Chitta. He's probably listening. Yay. Aloha, welcome. I think people are starting to join now because the time changed on the East Coast. And I don't think people realize the time changed in Hawaii. So welcome. If you're just joining, you're coming on the second hour. I love you. So what was I saying? Oh yeah.
Chitta.
Chitta. He was telling me how he really likes this performance thing, you know, how we're performers and we're performing for each other. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. And then it dawned on me recently that, you know, it's really important to consider that, you know, you're putting on the entire performance. You're not an individual performer. Because then if you're an individual performer, you actually think that you're responsible for how you're expressing. You're not. You're not. That performance is one performance. You know, you're responsible. You're responsible in the sense that you're responsible for all of it at once, not as an individual for an individual performance, but actually responsible for all of the performances that seem to be presenting themselves to you. Because if you just take it as if you're doing a performance, it's like there's this way of kind of like fucking with people. Hey, I'm just performing here. Oh, what's your problem over there? Oh, you don't like the way I'm performing? Okay. You know, and you take it as this is all my performance, everything that's being perceived. It's like, how would you like it to go? How would you like to feel? How would you like to feel? Let's put it that way. How would you like to feel in this performance? And, you know, if you know how you would like to feel, and we all do know how we would like to feel, might want to touch into that, like in the morning or any time of day, touch into how you like to feel. And then when you're not feeling that way, noticing that you deserve to feel the way that you like to feel. And opening yourself to guidance that way. That way the play and the characters and all the performance, they start to perform a more loving play, which is what we really want, but we've been conditioned to make an unloving play. We've been conditioned to make an unloving play. It's like an addict, you know? It's like an addict. And, you know, in fact, anything that looks like addiction to like food, drugs, sex, anything like that, anything, it's symbolic of being addicted to making conflict. So there's this addiction to getting energy from people by getting them riled up, by hurting their feelings, by making them feel small. You know, there's an egoic energy rush that comes from that. And that's why there's an attraction to upsetting people. It's like the ego just got the upper hand, and it only feels release, a temporary sense of release, and then it's gone. And then you're back to looking for your next victim, quote unquote. Someone that you can project it onto. Like they're just not tuned in enough. That's why they're even getting upset at me for saying that the way I said it, or for being that way. Okay. You're not an individual performer. Kind of goes along with that from earlier about watching their reaction and asking for guidance when you see their reaction to you and they have an upset reaction to you, asking for guidance on how to take care of that. It's yours to take care of. It's not theirs. They're not over there. It's in your perception, right? That's the best when you're recognizing it's in your perception, because then you see, oh, this person, you know, they're just all strung out on drugs and they're treating me like this, and gosh, I just want to not talk to them anymore or something like that. But when you take it back to, oh, I'm making all of this up and it's my responsibility, then you start to see something different. You know, your true vision comes into play and changes everything. Your whole perception of them can change in an instant. Just in taking responsibility for that. I made them this way. Why did I make them this way? I've seen in my own consciousness where I'm admitting that I make them that way, and then it's shown to me that I've been for years wishing death on them. And just kind of like covering it up. I didn't even, I knew, but I didn't know kind of thing. And that's the way it is. That's why I encourage people to look like that for who seems to be all screwed up. And admit to yourself that you're making it up. And that includes anyone. You know, you could take someone that seems like they've harmed you, or they've seem like they've harmed innocent people. And offer some willingness to see that you're making it up. And then you'll start to see why you're making it up. It's amazing. And it's not something to be guilty for. This is arising all the time in everyone's consciousness. And a lot of people don't know it's arising in their consciousness. A lot of people will refute that. They'll go, no, you're making that up. That's not in my consciousness. I'm telling you, that's what props this whole thing up, though. That's what props it up. And if you're willing to look, the thing is, it gets undone. It's like as soon as I see that I've been projecting for this person's death, then I'm not anymore. It's simple. Or if I do find myself still projecting for this person's death, it is completely different. It's a completely different energy. Like, I know I don't mean it because I know it's about myself. I know that's how I make death real. It's not gonna play out very much after that, if it plays out at all after seeing it. But you'll get shown what it is very clearly through your own guidance. Just be willing, again, to acknowledge that you are projecting the whole thing, as in you're not guilty for it. But you're projecting the whole thing because it seems like that's what's going to save you. It seems like that's what's going to save you. It's like it's putting your own death off a little bit, but really it's calling for it. You know, in the moment, the sense of release is that you're putting that death off for a bit. That's the ego's way of release. But really, you're calling it in. Any kind of condemnation that you're giving to them, that demands punishment. And guess who gets that? You. You get that consequence. You know, you're calling on it for them too. You're calling on it for them too. And that's going to have an effect because the mind isn't separate. You're calling upon it for them. But you know what? You get it equally. You get that equally. And you don't want any part of that. You don't have to have it like that. Your life can be really chill, joyful, relaxed, loving. Your body doesn't even have to go through a death. It doesn't have to, because it never does anyways. It's never really here. But you don't have to have the death experience. You don't have to bring that upon you. Just watch where you're demanding death for other people. And you know what? Here's how you can know that you're demanding death for other people, even subtly. If you perceive them in a way where you're reacting to them as if they're threatening. Every reaction that you have to a person as if they're threatening, that's the death thought showing itself. You know, they're only showing up, they're only appearing like that, so you can get some release from that death thought, so you can project it onto them. That's from the ego's perspective. From the spirit's perspective, you're only seeing them like that so that you can heal the underlying self-belief. So it's up to you which road you take, and that's the only choice you ever make. It's the only choice you ever make. Watch that. That's a fun thing, just to see the sense that you made a choice. One of my friends at a Facebook post said, I love Facebook. I get to see all the patterns and everything. It's really fun. One of my friends at a Facebook post about how he made a decision to not have sex. And he's 43 years old now, and he made a decision to not have sex. And it's the best decision he ever made. And, you know, I'm sure that feels really real. Like that was a decision that was really made. Because look at the results. No sex, 43 years. Like that was a decision that was really made. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And it's something that seems as neutral as that. It's not neutral at all. To believe that you made any decision on the surface. That's another thought of death. All these decisions that you think you make on the surface, they lead to death. There's no problem, the decisions apparently being made, but you're dreaming. Remember, you're dreaming? You didn't make any bad decisions. You didn't make any good decisions. The only decision you ever make is the decision between truth and illusion. And if you make a decision to decide that you made a decision in the perceived world, that's a decision for illusion. That's a decision for death. That's the decision you have to make. Whether you actually make decision, you decide whether to agree with that idea that you actually make decisions. What you perceive is the past playing out. There's no decisions to be made on the surface. There's no decisions. All those decisions are spontaneously occurring. You get the perception that you made a decision, and then you convince other people that you made a decision. But really what occurred to you was you never got laid in 43 years, and then you took credit for it. Like you did that on purpose. It's funny. It's identity. That's how identity is. It's tricky like that. It's really tricky like that. Why did you choose to play the harp, for instance? Had some harp playing yesterday and today. Like, no one chooses that. No one chooses that. But in that moment, when I'm projecting someone to ask me, why did you choose? That's like a test for me. It's like truth or illusion. Right now, truth or illusion. What'll it be? It doesn't matter how I find myself answering them. It's the way I perceive it. It's the way I'm looking at it. Wait a minute, I can't really choose anything. But I can still answer their question. No problem. Or it could just be, I don't know. Seemed like the thing to do.
So you were talking about Chitta, that, what is it, that we're all actors or we're all performing?
Well, Chitta really likes the concept of performing, that we're performers, that we're performing for one another.
Yeah, so then I shared on your Facebook one time this Joel Goldsmith talk called Judging by Appearances, the Theater.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you're an audience in the theater and you're seeing this play, you're seeing the villain and the heroine and the hero, and you're worried about what's going on, what the hero's going to do, if the villain is going to win, if there's going to be tragedy or whatever. But what determines the play is the author of the play.
Yeah.
And the author of this play, of this life, is God. It has nothing to, it's not determined by the actors or what they're performing.
Mm-hmm.
What they're performing and what's going on is determined by the author of the play, which is God.
Okay.
And so then you turn to God, that God is the one that is going to create the outcome of this earthly human drama. So we don't have to worry about global warming or what the Illuminati is going to do, or the failure of the economic system or whatever. That the outcome is in God's hands, because this is God's theater and God is the author of of life.
Yes, and what we're perceiving that seems to be going on in the theater is our painting over it. It's our painting. Okay? And there's no, what's important about that performer thing, and there's no separate performers, that it's not like I'm just over here doing a performance for you. It's like we're all one. We're one. That one that you say that it's God's Son in whom he is well pleased. Mm. The split where there seems to be a whole bunch of us running all around, that's based on the thought of separation. So it's one performance. It's one performance, and we're just being performed. You can say we're just being played out by the one mind. In the sense of confusion, it's playing out these separate performers, but there's no separate performers.
It's all the author. It's all God.
Yes.
We're just his puppets. He's got his hand in us, you know.
Yep. All just helping us to see through that illusion that we've done it wrong. That we've separated ourselves from reality. It's all just for that. And when you take it as all for that one thing, then it becomes really fun. It's lovely. And there's this sense of all of the people being that one love of yours. So it's all the people receive all of your love because they get to be sensed like they are that love for you. They are giving that gift to you, and it doesn't matter what they look like, how they're coming to you. It's just like you just find yourself falling in love over and over again with everyone that comes into your perception, no matter what it is that they bring. Even if it seems like it's some kind of hatred or negativity or something, it doesn't need to be that kind of energy. Like, don't bring that negativity over here. Like, you can play with that too. You can play with that. And when you see past the negativity and you just connect with the person, their negative comments, they don't really even mean anything. They're not getting a trigger out of you. They're not getting an agreement out of you anymore. But while they are getting a trigger or an agreement, just watch. Watch how your energy is playing. Ask for guidance. The guidance is energetic. It's kind of like moving through emotions. I've heard it said, and I really resonate with this one, finding the thread of bliss within everything. You'll see that there's this resistance energy, and it's always because of thoughts. It's always because of your own thoughts you're taking as real, resistance to things on the surface. And then when there's a pulling back, there's the seeing how you can get your way back to that thread of bliss. And that's being with everything as it appears to be, not as it is, as it appears to be, even as it appears to be, but looking right through it. And that's when you're getting more of an understanding of what is. Okay? As we get more of an understanding of what is, even though we don't see it, even though we don't see what is, we can express what is more. Irrespective of what seems to be arising, we can be an expression of what is. And as we're an expression of what is, we're also guaranteed health and healing. We're guaranteed that. Because then the body is being used for its actual purpose, which is healing the mind. The body's purpose is to heal the mind. To the confused mind, the body's purpose is to get stuff for the mind. A partner, a comfort, good food, good money, whatever. But the real purpose of the body is to heal the mind. And the mind gets healed through communication. That means between us. Between us. The person's body doesn't have to be physically present to be communicating with them. Anytime you think of them, that's an opportunity for communication too. The bodies don't separate us. So you're either communicating with them or you're projecting onto them, depending on which choice you're making in the moment. And all there is to do about that is notice. Because as you notice, you see which choice serves you. The automatic choice is to be projecting, because it seems to the ego that the projecting is what saves you. And for the most part, we've been very conditioned into projecting. It's almost like it's a physical craving for it, because there will be a sense of discomfort in the body's energy field. And the way to get a very temporary, very surface release on that is to project. And so that's why we're projecting again and again and again and again. And it's sort of like you see how it's sort of like a physical addiction, because there's an upset feeling and there's a release through projecting. So it's like I'm seeking someone to project upon so I can get that sense of release.
Yeah, well, Eve said it was the serpent's fault, and then Adam said it was Eve's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And it all starts there, first, and then they became ashamed. They were naked.
Yep. Yep, it's a way to try to avoid your own shame. And you know what the funny thing is? The greatest thing, the greatest joke is, there's what you're trying to cover up, it's already a lie about you. It's not even true. It's a guilty self-concept that has no basis in reality. So what you're trying to cover up doesn't even belong there. It's only the covering up that lets it stay. Once you look upon it, it gets resolved. And there seems to be all these layers, just from adding layers and adding layers of deception. There seem to be these layers where you'll get a healing and then you'll see another layer. Don't get discouraged. It's okay. Burning through those layers helps everyone. Helps everyone, because it makes it easier for all of our brothers and sisters to see through. Every time we're seeing through, we're making it easier for these other aspects of ourselves to actually see through for themselves. And, that's why it's like honor, honor, honor. No one needs to learn anything from you. Honor where they are and meet them exactly where they are with love, not with condemnation, like they need to learn something. Everyone has an inner teacher. It's not coming from the ego sense. Whenever you see them as separate and needing to learn something, that's the ego sense. Believe it. And if you see that that's the ego sense, you won't find yourself falling for it and falling into these conflict situation where it's like, gosh, I was so compassionate with them and they just kept on hating on me, And it'll be fun. It's fun that way, just let yourself be completely humble about what you think because anything that you can teach another person is only a concept, and all concepts are made in separation, no matter how good they seem. The only thing you can really communicate with anyone is love, and that's not a concept in the first place. So it doesn't really matter what words are coming out of your mouth. They're getting the message when you're extending love. They're going to get the message like that. And, I've had friends give me some really good feedback like that, just in feeling like, hey, I love you and I have nothing to teach you. And they're telling me, hey, you know what? I don't like it when you say it like that, because when you say it like that, it makes me feel like I'm dismissed. Like when you say that the world isn't real, makes me feel like I'm dismissed, And when I can take that, when I can hear that and take that, and can you say it a different way so that I don't feel like that? If I can take that and heal and hear that, automatically the guidance comes to me. Like at first, the first thought that comes to me is the ego's thought. It's like, no, that's what I believe. Fuck you. That's what I say. The world isn't real, And then as that thought's allowed to pass, and I'm getting the feeling effect, kind of like feeling resistant to that question, then it's like, oh yeah, I know how right now. It just came to me. Yeah, I know exactly how. It's sacred. That's how. It's sacred. Every time you hear me say the world isn't real, for your perspective, it means the exact same thing as the world is sacred. That's what it means. It's like, First, you can handle hearing that the world is sacred. And it is, it's true. It is sacred because of what it's for. Because it's for undoing that guilty self-concept. She said, do you really feel that? And I said, yes, it is sacred. It is definitely because of what it's for. It's for extending love. It's for connecting with one another, for undoing that guilty self-concept. That's all the same thing. That's what makes it sacred. It's not sacred because it's real, but it's sacred nonetheless. It doesn't have to be real to be sacred. Okay, sacred isn't even a real thing. But it's the energy of it that transmits. It's the energy of it that transmits, unless there's going to be a sense of defensiveness about the concept, about my philosophy. You know, I like to say that I don't have a real philosophy. It's just a constant willingness to listen. It's a constant willingness to listen to the truth. And then these words come out that are pointing, but the words, I'm not attached to the words. Okay? Sometimes it sounds like I'm saying the complete opposite things at different times, in fact. I'm not really attached to the words. That's just for pointing. That's just for getting the extension of love across. You could say it's filling the space for communication to happen. But the words, the communication is not in the words at all. So when someone says, I don't like it when you say that, I don't need to have any problem with that. I don't like it when you say, I don't like that philosophy. I don't need to have any problem with that. I don't like that philosophy. Well, I don't need that philosophy. So there we are. I'd much rather have connection with you than I would any philosophy. That's the truth. And that's where we are all at, even if we don't know it. Some of my friends, you know, will be like, you mean you actually love people, like, for real? Like, I have one friend that makes the best face. I don't even know if I could do it. But whenever he's around people and I see him around people and he sees me, he looks around at the people and he's like, hey, I did it. That was pretty good. I can see myself.
Yeah, you did it yesterday.
I did it good, huh? That's awesome. like they're so this, you know. And I asked my friend, why do you make them like that? Is it so you could feel superior at a party? And he's like, yeah. Actually, I know the guy. He's been to Wisdom Dialogues before, you know, something like that. It's not going to freak him out. But yeah, I do feel superior like that. How can I look at that another way? I'll just notice that you're using them to feel superior. They're not doing anything. They're reading the script you gave them so you could feel superior at the party. And the more you notice that, the more you do fall in love with people. It doesn't matter how they're projecting themselves, you know, because you know it's you. Let yourself be that. Show a willingness for that to occur, and you'll be shown the way. But there's like this real tight grip on seeing people as less than. You know, that's what the ego needs. That's what the ego needs to make a sense of innocence. See, the ego thinks the ego needs to make a sense of innocent because you're not innocent. So in order to make a sense of innocent in a world of separation, other people have to be much less innocent than you. Okay?
Well, it's like chopping the other guy's head off so you can feel taller.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And you know, if anyone wants to come up and say something to you, they're not coming from anywhere but your own mind. So just watch your reaction to that. You know, I've seen instances where, you know, I'm watching my mind and my mind's telling the person, shut the fuck up. And that's what it is like. And it's just laughing. It's just funny. Like they'll be talking and it's like, oh, really? And then at the same time, I'm seeing what is playing in my own mind, and there's just it, and it's just taking it like it's funny, because it is. It's just taking it when it's taken like it's serious, or it's just like kind of not seen and it just goes unseen. It's just permitted like that. That's where you're left wondering, why didn't we have a nice connection? You're left wondering. I was so compassionate. That's the ego too. I was so compassionate. But then, they didn't show me that compassion back. They were just mean. It reminds me of one time when I was standing in the house with my 11-year-old son, and it seemed like he was being mean to me. And then he said, "You're being really mean." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I was just thinking of that about you right now, but I know it's not true." And then we both laughed. And then it's like, done. It's like, it's like, our minds are not separate. People are picking up on this stuff. And a lot of times with kids are great because they mirror stuff back really fast. It's really good. It's really awesome. Someone asked me, how was it for you having your nephew? Because, she asked me, how was it? What was it like having Dylan? And how's he at home and stuff? And I said, oh, he's doing great. This is when I took my nephew for almost 2 months, and you were gone the whole time. It was awesome. Took my nephew for 2 months, and, how are they doing? And I go, well, I haven't heard from him in a little bit, but the last time I heard from him, they were so stoked. And what I saw was the boy decided that everything that his parents were doing was in love. That was all in love. He had all kinds of stories about how mean they were, about how they talked really mean to him and been really mean. He got locked in his room from the outside. He was on psychotic drugs, all this different stuff. He's like, I realized everything my parents did was because they loved me. And then he wanted to go home. And his parents decided that they can treat him with so much more kindness. They do not want to be like that. They just thought they didn't have any other choice. So how can it work out better than that? And in less than 2 months. And then my friend goes, but what about you? What about you? I'm like, I love that. I love it. A kid who wants to be a really clear mirror like that, I love it. He's showing me so much stuff. It's like when I move out of the teaching role, or it seems like this kid, I would have a lot to teach this kid too. But when I step out of the teaching role and I become the student of it, that's where it's really healing for me. From my perspective, that's where it's really healing for me, especially when it seems like someone's being disrespectful, which he dished some of that stuff out. He dished the trying to make me angry thing out, which is I just love. And just kind of like looking like insanity, which I love. And it was so different, it was so different after just 1 week. The whole thing was so different after just 1 week. I could feel myself get pulled into, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And then watching that pull and just letting it let itself up. It'll just let itself up. It's almost like it lets go of me. And then it's like, oh, thank goodness none of that stuff is true. And then just taking it moment by moment. And we had so much fun. And then when he was ready to go home, he was so ready to go home. It was time to go home. It was so time to go home. He was not even waiting for a couple weeks for his parents to get him a ticket. He's like, I really want to go home. And I said, I'm really getting you home. And he went home, and in a moment's notice, they had tickets at the airport. He was gone, done. We had his birthday party for him, and he wasn't even here. And we got some presents, got some cash for him, sent it in a box. Yeah, there's absolutely, it's like a big yes. It's like a big yes to things, And yes can also look like no. That's okay. But it's a yes to the teaching. It's a yes to the guidance that's coming. And it always shows itself to be a blessing that way. So yes, everyone. So unless anyone has any questions, I don't think I see anything written. I'm not on Facebook today, so it's a little bit quieter. This Facebook stream didn't work. Also, I start at 3 p.m. Hawaii time, and I know the time changed on the mainland. It didn't change here. So for my mainland folk who watch this, who come on, watch this, whatever, and your time changed, it's now an hour earlier than it was. Hooray! And unless there's any more questions, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to Aerial Silks tonight. I go to Aerial Silks on Tuesday night. It's really fun. Yes. If you have that in your area, try it out. Maybe you'll like it. It's really neat. They teach you how to do it. Next thing you know, you're up in the air. Go to hopejohnson.org to find out everything you want to find out about all my stuff that I'm offering. Okay. At the moment, I don't have anything that I charge for at all, except my book. I do charge for my book. You can get that book now on my website. You can either order it through Amazon, or you could order it through my website, Miracle Botanicals. If you go to hopejohnson.org, you're going to find it. You can order it like that. If you order it through my website, you'll actually get it autographed by me. If that appeals to you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that appeals to some people. So if you want me to sign it, then let me know. I love you, Phoebes. I had a feeling a lot of people were not going to know the time, like about 5 minutes before I started, though. So I was like, okay, well, we'll just play that by ear. Also, go to miraclebotanicals.com. Our website is kicking ass. Even if you just go there to see what a bitchin' ass website it is. That thing is just, it's rocking. And let me know any kind of feedback you have about it, because we have the designers to help us, and we're rearranging some things right now to make it way easier on everyone to find all the directions and the recipes that we have and the descriptions about the different essential oils that we have. We only get the best essential oils in the world. There's nothing on our website that's a synthetic. So you can check that out. Also, you can donate to me on my webpage as well. Donations, financial donations, greatly appreciated. All this that I pay for comes out of my pocket, of course. Well, not literally. It's digital. It's all digital. It's digital money. I also welcome any kind of technical donations to get the word out more, because it's so much fun. Thank you so much. I love you. And I'll see you again next week, 3 p.m. Hawaii time. Mahalo, aloha, and a hui ho.